Live from the Talking Joe studios, it's Talking Joe.
Talking Joe weekly podcast. Talking Joe is there. Talking Joe thought we would last. Talking Joe is there. Find each other like a married couple. Our podcast on the air. Talking Joe is there.
Talking Joe is the code name for a completely untrained special podcast force. Its purpose, to produce a regular comic review show while breaking and replacing a series of presenters from across the world.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, you. I don't like your girlfriend. It's me, Mark, and welcome to Talking Joe, the best and longest running dedicated G.I. Joe podcast that features a guy called Mark, who happens to be from England. The other ones are also fine. You can find out the details about this specific podcast over at our website, which is talkingjoe.co.uk. Today we are continuing our look at the G.I. Joe Disavowed era with two issues from 2003. It is issue 17 and 18 of G.I. Joe Frontline, two one-part issues. So with that preamble done, let me introduce my co-hosts. First up, we have a real American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, and hello, listeners.
Hello, Tim. And next up, we have G.I.J. It's Jay Cordray.
Howdy, Joe fans. Hi, Mark. Hi, Tim. Who's ready to talk about push-ups and dog vomit?
Two of my favorite topics.
Actually, fun fact. Devil's Due was considering collecting these two issues in a $5.95 like 2-in-1, and that was going to be the subtitle.
G.I. Joe, push-ups and dog vomit. $5.95.
Those would be great code names as well.
Well, that one we can put that in our file of ones we've designed along with the Dreadnought brand. Remember that guy?
Exactly. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that would be a good Dreadnought. Yeah, good Dreadnought.
Dreadnought's merchandising officer guy. I don't know.
And before we get too much into it, I just want to say to Tim and to Jay, who hasn't listened to it now, but will have done by the time this is out, how good was that Billy Penn episode where we talked to him about issue 287? There's a guy who loves G.I. Joe.
And talking, which is quite a recipe when you put several people in a virtual recording studio who all like G.I. Joe and like talking.
Mm. Yep. So that's split into two, that one, and lots of fun finding out real behind the scenes world of someone that loves G.I. Joe, sort of pursuing an art career, getting to draw an issue of G.I. Joe and see how the thing is made.
And he teased at the end that he was doing something else for G.I. Joe, and we now know what it is. It is a variant cover for the new G.I. Joe Saturday morning. What's the subtitle? Saturday Morning Adventures.
Saturday morning something. Yeah.
G.I. Joe Real American Hero Saturday Morning Adventures comic book series that IDW will be publishing next year. Billy Penn is doing a variant cover for, I believe, issue 1.
Yeah, exciting to have IDW pull that out of the bag as well and announce a brand new comic series. Look forward to seeing how that turns out with Dan Schoening, friend of the show, on lead art duties, following up his great Arctic adventure from a few months ago.
So Cobra Commander gets Aladdin's lamp. That's straight out of the Saturday morning cartoon. I can't wait to read that one.
I just want to point out, G.I. Joe was not on Saturday mornings. G.I. Joe was syndicated.
Right. Every weekday.
Like, hey, everyone, as a generic subtitle for this.
Yeah.
Sure. G.I. Joe was stripped immediately from the beginning. It was a 5-part miniseries Monday through Friday, and then the next year it was a 5-part miniseries Monday through Friday, and then the next year there were 65 episodes, and it just aired Monday through Friday. Transformers, its first season, was on the weekends. I think in most markets on Sundays. So, yes, as a very general, like, like when in the 80s were cartoons on
Yeah.
Saturday mornings, yes, G.I. Joe was not a Saturday morning cartoon.
Well, I guess weekday afternoon adventures doesn't have that same ring to it.
Monday to Friday adventures.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd call it G.I. Joe Animated Adventures. That
Yeah.
would be
That
that would
seems
be the
like
title.
a no-brainer.
Also, Saturday Morning Adventures, not bad, but it's 3 words, and you could shave that down to 2. Let's talk about Frontline. Speaking of shaving things down to 2, there are only 2 issues left in Frontline for us to review.
I can't believe
There
it.
are. Last 2. And rattling through the final 2 issues of Frontline. There's talking behind comic scenes, behind the comic scenes. Mark, J, and Tim. It's the spin-off that has survived. There's no yawning to find the meaning. Is it good? Is it shite? G.I. Joe Frontline on Talking Joe. Well, G.I. Joe Frontline on Talking Joe. G.I. Joe Frontline on Talking Joe. Well, G.I. Joe Frontline on Talking Joe. First out the gate, it's issue 17, Training Day, from November 2003. The creative team are Story, Paul Jenkins, Pencils, Tim Seeley, Inks, Cory Hamscher, Colors, David Messina and Federica Manfredi, Letters, Dreamer Design, Graphic Design, as always, Mike Norton.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
So we've got 2 covers for this issue. Cover A is a more painterly effort from Jason Alexander, and cover B is a back and front gatefold cover. Is it called gatefold when it's back and front, or am I? No, that's a fold-out one.
Wrap around.
Anyways, wraparound cover. Thanks, Tim. By Tim Seeley of Beachhead on the front and Greenshirts on the back. Quite different covers. Jay, what do you think?
The Beachhead cover, the painted one, I kind of like it. It's a little rough. It makes me think of Kent Williams. I'm not sure. Jason Alexander. That name's familiar, but I don't think I've... Maybe Spawn? Did he do some Spawn work?
Don't know, but I get the Kent Williams reference. It's
it looks a lot like Kent Williams to me. I really like the pose. That hand and man, the proportion and stuff on his on that arm that's pointing to you. It's a lot more closer to his body than than maybe it should be. But just as far as the drawing of the hand and the knuckles and the finger shapes and stuff are all really nice. Thumb's a little thin. But I mean, that's just something that as an artist I know is hard to do. I kind of like the colors. It's kind of muddy, but it's all muddy. It's not like, oh, part of it is this way and part of it is this way, which we see sometimes. I like it. I mean, I hate Beachhead's outfit, and I'm going to complain about that more than once. But other than that, I really like that cover.
And I guess the pose is meant to bring to mind the Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
I want you for the U.S. Army pose. So yeah, very very much in sort of calling that to mind.
I think it almost though makes me think of the earliest Frontline covers by Dave Dorman. Tim said there was a lot of empty space, and it was almost like they were designed to be magazine covers where you would have all kinds of text around the person's head and stuff. And I feel like this one could easily fall right into that mode. This could be slapped on a G.I. Joe bi-monthly magazine or whatever, and then fill that, all above the stars and the red and white stripes. And, you could load that up with text if you really wanted to. I wouldn't want him to, but you could. I could see an editor doing it.
Jason Alexander is credited nowadays as Jason Sean Alexander. He draws, and I'm guessing co-owns, the monthly image series Philadelphia, and has recently done work for Spawn.
I
covers.
thought that he did quite a few issues of Spawn.
All right, so G.I. Joe Frontline 17 cover B has Beachhead on the front cover holding 2 pistols with his back against a section of concrete wall, and sort of over his shoulder in the distance are a couple silhouettes coming at us with machine guns. And then you realize that it is also a wraparound cover, and there are 4 other people sort of on our side of this fight with Beachhead, and it's these green shirts. And when I open it as a cover and back cover, I like it more because there's more variety in color and separation of elements, like extreme foreground with these 5 Joes and these sections of wall, and then sort of background, right, with this distant space, these people coming at us and the sky. As just a cover by itself, I read half the comic before I realized that the cover wrapped around. And the whole time I was thinking, this is not a very exciting cover because for 2 reasons. One, the colors on Beachhead are similar both in hue and also in value to the concrete that he's leaning against. So he doesn't really pop out from them, right? Like, yes, the concrete's a little bit cooler, he's a little bit warmer, and the colors are not exact, but there's not a lot of drama in the color work on this cover. Also, my criticism of Tim Seeley going back several episodes when he was doing earlier work on G.I. Joe, and also when there was an issue of G.I. Joe that had a preview of his other series for Devil's Due, Kilgore. My comment was that Seeley's art looks like he learned how to draw by looking at comics much more than he did by learning how to look at real things like cars and trees and people in real life. And I see that very much on this cover. These 2.5 silhouettes on the right side of the cover, above the word line for Frontline, these 2 silhouettes, they look like these people are in zero gravity. Like the actual pose, these 2 poses don't have any weight or heft to them. They don't look like they're running. And the person on the left looks like they would fall over. It's like, no, you actually can't stand or run with that pose. And if it sounds like I'm nitpicking, like, what's really actually like 5% of the front cover and like 2% of the full front cover, back cover. Yes, that is a nitpick, but it's a representation of a weakness I see in most of Tim Seeley's art, where yes, a person in the background in silhouette, even that's not convincing to me. But in terms of, like faces and clothes and like guns, like can he draw? Yes. But I find this cover, I agree with Jay. I don't really like this Beachhead costume. At least they've kept sort of the iconic thing, which is the ski mask, right? It's like whatever you do with Beachhead, right? Like give him a ski mask, and then like sort of secondarily, what are the other things? Like, okay, we'll give him a ski mask. He needs to be in green, but like a certain green. Short sleeves or long sleeves, like different kinds of pants, different kinds of boots. It's like, well, he needs something on his chest, right? It's like I wouldn't ever give Beachhead like Shipwreck's shirt from 1985 in green. It's like he needs stuff on his chest. So he does have that, but there's this sort of this design is, like the shoulder pads feel more superheroic, and then the sort of armor on the front doesn't have any heft to it. So like Beachhead is a badass. Like in 86 on the show, in the movie, that scene that everyone loves where he's dressing down the new recruits, right? His action figure, it's a Hector Garrido painting, and he's a badass in this comic in story, but he never really looks like a badass. And that starts with this cover B.
And this cover B costume and reflected inside the issue when he's on the mission, it's based on the version 4 design of the character from 2002, which was released with Dr. Mindbender as the G.I. Joe versus Cobra line. So very much following that design pretty closely, including like the knee pads and that kind of thing. What is curious as well is that they used 2 designs on the interior of the story, with the second design when he's doing the training flashbacks being a different design, which is the Devil's Due design, which is the one that features in their battle lines pin-up. The other observation I had about this cover is sort of something around Tim Seeley's art as well, which is that often he'll have things quite straight on in such a way that he doesn't really need to lean too much into, perspective skills, and that scene in Beachhead's dual wielding pistols, both of those are completely flat, so that we're not seeing the top or the sides of the guns. Also the 2 green shirts immediately to his left, again, those are completely sort of flat to the pane of the cover, so that we're only seeing the side of the guns.
I'm gonna give everyone a peek behind the curtain. When you draw G.I. Joe characters and you have to draw particular weapons or vehicles, if you can get away with tracing a photo of a real world weapon or a photo of a not real world G.I. Joe vehicle, if you can pose your character so that they are holding a weapon, so that it is in profile and you don't have to draw it in perspective, you save time. And I never really thought about that until Co-Brember last year when I did it a few times. And I was thinking of this just yesterday, and Mark's comment just now reminds me of this. So I do give every G.I. Joe artist some leeway to draw a couple guns, machine guns, and vehicles in profile to save time. So this one I would split either way. It's like, oh, I'll give Tim Seeley a break here, or like, oh, Tim Seeley, like one more thing about the art where I feel like he could like push more and work a little harder.
Okay, let's push on past the covers and into the plot. Jay, do you have a plot breakdown for us?
I do indeed. In an undisclosed location, G.I. Joe Sergeant Major Wayne Sneeden, aka Beachhead, is leading a group of potential Joe recruits through a very realistic training exercise. Beachhead and the recruits are being pursued by a large group of enemy hostiles. Beachhead tells the recruits to head to a large brick building and get inside. One of the recruits is shot in the leg before making it to the building, and another recruit wants to go back for him, but Beachhead tells her to leave him. As the Joes pile into an elevator, one of the recruits, who, for the purpose of this exercise, is known only as 4, flashes back to his first day of training under Beachhead, when Beachhead made him do 50 push-ups for giving him a wrong answer. 4 recalls the punishment Beachhead doled out on the recruits, who were certain he was actually trying to kill them. 4 hates Beachhead. Beachhead stops the elevator on the 18th floor of a 6-story building, and leads the recruits as they zipline to the roof of the prison next door, hurling insults at them along the way. 4 thinks Beachhead is a lunatic, and he swears to himself he'll kill him if they make him out alive. Beachhead leads the recruits down into the prison. The recruits ask Beachhead why he led them into the prison. He tells them the enemy would not have killed their fallen friend, rather they would have taken him to be interrogated in the prison. Beachhead and the recruits rescue their friend and call for an extraction. During the firefight, 4's gun jams and Beachhead tells him he's an idiot and to do 50 push-ups. With bullets flying past his ears, 4 thinks he's a dead man. As the recruits board the G.I. Joe helicopter, Beachhead is shot and falls. He yells at the recruits to continue the mission, leave him behind. 4 jumps out of the helicopter and goes back for him. The Joe's helicopter takes off just in time. 4 asks Beachhead if he is okay. Beachhead says 4 disobeyed a direct order and tells him to do 50 push-ups.
He's a tough cookie, that Beachhead. So I guess the most significant thing about this issue is that it's really shining the spotlight on Beachhead as a fan favorite character. I think, you know, that mask, those appearances in the cartoon, that cool figure, it means that Beachhead is a lot of people's favorite, or a lot of people, high up on the list of favorites anyway. And I don't think there's been an issue prior to this point where Beachhead has really been given a lot of solo time in the G.I. Joe comics. So it's kind of the first time that he's really had a lot of time on these pages to kind of really just show him doing his thing.
Yeah, there are 3 or 4 scenes in the first 25 issues of the main Devil's Due G.I. Joe monthly series where Beachhead does the Beachhead thing. It's giving some recruits a hard time, or he's being a real tough cookie. And I appreciate a full issue for him to not just be hard on recruits, but also to be, like a capable Joe who succeeds on a mission. Because those scenes that we've seen in the Devil's Due run so far, they're fun and they are like fair portrayals of his character. But like A, they leave us wanting more, and B, if that's all we ever get out of Beachhead, they start to become this like recurring sort of like joke. Not that he's a joke, but it's sort of like, yep, we're going to check back in with Beachhead being mean to recruits, like that scene in the animated movie. But, every Joe is much more than the like one really funny line in their action figure dossier, like Beachhead stinks because he doesn't bathe, or like the one thing that we most remember from the cartoon, like roadblock rhymes or shipwreck has a bird. It's like, no, shipwreck is like a Navy SEAL. Like there's all these things he can do.
I'd like to see Beachhead out on more missions. Like you said, almost every time they've used him, it's just been as a drill instructor. And it's like, this guy's one of easily the top 10 most badass Joes. He should be out on the field all the time. I mean, you got other people, Brennan Fraser or whoever, come in and train these guys. But let Beachhead get out and do what he does best.
Yeah, was it Sergeant Stone? Whoever that was?
Yeah, whoever that was. That guy. Sergeant Slaughter Light.
My two sort of top-down reactions to this issue are that I think Paul Jenkins pulled off a good, dramatic, satisfying story in, I'm guessing it's 22 pages. I haven't counted, but all the Devil's Due stories are 22 pages. And that I really didn't like it on page 4 and 5 when Beachhead says, "Leave your comrade, we're moving on." And I was very glad later in the story when, one of the characters knows more than we do, and it was his plan to go back for that character, and that gets to be a surprise both for the recruit who's questioning him and narrating the story, and also for us. And I have been hard on Tim Seeley in the past, and there are some things about this issue that I think could be improved. But overall, this, in terms of drawing and storytelling, this is a handsome issue. There are some panels and pages that could be stronger, but Seeley, he draws everyone in this like post J. Scott Campbell, like appealing sort of comic book adventure style, cartoony style, and he gets the action, he gets the guns, and he gets perspective. So overall, I thought the issue was good. I do want to point out one of the color artists, David Messina. David Messina is the David Messina of comic books, right? This isn't some like random like person who colors at a studio, and we mostly know the name of the studio, and occasionally they credit 2 or 10 people who do all the actual work at the coloring or lettering studio. David Messina drew issue 252 of G.I. Joe: Real American Hero, the Baroness Spotlight issue. David Messina has drawn some Star Trek comics for IDW. Like he went from coloring this issue to doing other work in comics,
including penciling an issue of G.I. Joe. Yeah, I think the colors on this issue, look good, and sort of in comparison to most of the other issues, fare well by comparison, and giving a sense of the location, of tone, of mood, using reds in the background to indicate place, but also I guess peril, or that kind of thing. There was a point that I wanted to guess follow up on in terms of the art, and also that story point of leaving someone behind. That Tim Seeley's art is generally very solid, and it's I think a good looking issue. Where I think there's maybe it's slightly misjudged is in terms of how he draws the enemy combatants in the issue, where they are sort of drawn as a somewhat comedic, cartoonish mob with literal pitchforks and torches sort of coming after them. There's a recurring character who sort of looks like a GI wrapped in bandages, like a bit of a sort of a Frankensteinish looking character. And that kind of braying mob coming after them somewhat undermines that key plot point of Beachhead leaving a man behind and then coming back to rescue him, on the basis that their procedure manual would indicate that they would capture them and then bring them back to the base for questioning. But that braying mob doesn't really look like the kind of combatants who are going to thoroughly read the fine print of a procedure manual and follow it to the T.
So I've thought about the bad guys here, right? And they get a splash page. Page 3 of the story is when we see them for the first time. They get entirely half of the page, which is an over-the-shoulder shot from 3, right? 3 is the main character? They left behind 4, or vice versa?
No, 4's the main character. They left behind 3.
Thank you. All right, so we are 4 in this story. So, Mark, I wonder if Paul Jenkins' script calls for pitchforks and torches. And I also imagine that his plot script for page 3 describes this villain, this adversarial mob or army as like sort of half like villagers, citizens of this city, ex-military, military, like organized but not formally organized. You know, they're not all wearing the same uniform. They're not wearing uniforms. They have different weapons. So I wonder how much of this we pin on Tim Seeley's slight cartooning in faces and like that one bandaged guy, and how much we pin this on him following what the plot calls for. I do think very subtly Seeley's art is slightly miscast for this story. And I try and save that term for much sort of stronger, more obvious like mismatches. And I think I've mentioned this on an episode before. For me, the like a very prime example of like a miscast artist is, and this is a Marvel, not a G.I. Joe example, when Matt Fraction took over 2 Fantastic Four monthly comics, and they were both like weird adventure, and Mike Allred drew one of them and Mark Bagley drew the other. And I don't think Mark Bagley was the right artist for that run. I think like Seeley is a Joe fan. He had worked on Joe before. Devil Stew has like a very small like in-house talent pool. Seeley can draw Beachhead and these 5 green shirts, but there's a subtle softness and like appeal and friendliness to how he draws faces. You know, it's these like J. Scott Campbell eyes and faces and chins. Tim Seeley's art is not gritty. You know, this is not like Ron Wagner. This is not Joe Kubert didn't draw a regular G.I. Joe, right? He worked on Sergeant Savage, but you know, there's no grit here. This is like pretty and there's a slickness to it, which is, you know, like what a lot of comics wanted in 2003.
I'll comment on the art here in a second, but I have a question for you guys, and maybe you can help me out. I read this twice, and I'm still not 100% sure. Is this a real mission? Like, are those real villagers and stuff? Because I was like, wow, that guy just got shot, and, you know, they're talking about, you know, oh, they killed 3 and all this stuff, and you got all these people coming out, and then you get to this page, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, oh, that's a bunch of Joes, like, disguised as, you know, whatever, shipwrecks right there in front. You know, you could pick out other ones. There's like 4 snake eyes, like Mark said. So I'm just not clear. Is everybody in on this, or is this a real mission?
This is a good point, because after they left 3, I thought, oh, is this gonna, you know, is this like the Kobayashi Maru? Like in a couple pages,
right,
is someone gonna push a button and like Beachhead takes his mask off and he like walks into another room and like Duke and Hawk are watching from a computer screen, and like, as Jay just said, like the bad guys are actually like sort of actors or something, and 3 didn't really get shot. 3 got fake shot to stress out and to test 1, 2, 4, and 5. This leads me to a slightly different question. On the second to last page, everyone's on the chopper. And then on the final page, it's cropped badly. But on the top panel, the two choppers do get away from the roof of the building as the tank is hitting the roof of the building. And then in panel 2, you very much see that the choppers are like in the distance and the tank is not turning to also shoot them down. And then the choppers do get away. And I thought, well, this is a satisfying 22 pages. And the comment that I wrote was, the story here is tight as a drum. But to Jay's question, I then wondered, wait, what's the mission? Are they...
Yeah, because he was like, they say, oh, we've rescued our objective or whatever. And then it's like, well, what was your objective? Was your objective 3 that got shot that you wouldn't have known? I mean, it was like watching the Star Wars prequels where everything that happens, Palpatine goes, yes, I wanted that to happen. It's like, that doesn't make any sense that you would want that to happen. You're counting on this person doing something and this person doing something and this person doing something to come back to your original plan. It's like, no, Beachhead wouldn't leave a guy in the field he'd leave a guy at a training exercise where he knew he wasn't going to get killed. But like you said earlier, for Beachhead to assume that the angry mob is not going to kill him because they don't know who he is laughable. I mean, it's not going to happen.
All right, so are we three in agreement? So there's something missing. There's like one line of dialogue, or one of the 5 Greenshirts needs to be holding something, like a file, like a folder, a disc, a little like pouch,
something.
Like, or there needs to be another person that they're dragging along. They like rescued some intelligence officer, or like kidnappee. Like, we don't need to know a lot about what the mission was, and one sentence of Beachhead dialogue or narration from 4 could probably do it. But I do feel that there's a story, sort of a logical beat or like piece of information that's missing here.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's somewhere in the middle of the book where they're sort of rappelling from one roof to another. There's a box that said, like I said before, the Joe's idea of a training mission is to send you into some hot zone with no chance of escape, and maybe you graduate if you survive. So I think the implication in the book is that their mission is to get into this environment and then escape.
So it's a real mission.
And I don't know if that it's a particularly satisfying mission.
No. So the confusion really takes the issue down a lot for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a setup kind of mission with like Joes as the baddies, as you suggested, Jay. I think they are in genuine peril, but
yeah,
the objectives of their mission are somewhat cloudy, and if it is just purely a training exercise, get in there in this hostile environment and get out without trying to die. These are meant to be professional soldiers, the best of the best. It seems like putting them in unnecessary jeopardy like that is not, would not be kind of an appropriate mission in of itself.
In 2003, Paul Jenkins has just written, or is in the middle of writing, an excellent run on Peter Parker Spider-Man, which is, most of the first half of it is drawn by Mark Buckingham. And then the second half of it, when the book like relaunches, when I think the second Sam Raimi movie comes out, the book relaunches with the new issue #1, and then Humberto Ramos is drawing it. So at this time, getting, and Paul Jenkins had written based off of a plot by other people, Origin, which is now published as Wolverine Origin, or Wolverine the Origin, which is a very pretty, very slow story that takes place in 1890 in Canada, and which I can't help but like, and sold a lot of comics,
and kept G.I. Joe issue 1 off of the top spot, I think.
Right. Thank you for looping us back on that. Okay, so getting Paul Jenkins, whether it's for like a single issue to try out, gauge his interest, or it's like, well, I'm always taking on freelance, or like, oh, I'd love to try and get into the Devil's Due talent pool. This is exciting. And in the previous issue, the ad, the like back cover ad for this issue, says, next issue, like Paul Origins Jenkins, and he's a writer whose work I like, and I have a very, very, very short list of writers who I would sort of approve to write G.I. Joe, to like take on a new version of G.I. Joe, or to pick up the long-running G.I. Joe, that is affiliated with one writer in particular. And Paul Jenkins isn't on that list necessarily, but if you tossed his name out for me, I'd say, oh, well, he's smart. I think I'd give him a try. And this issue for me is not a deal breaker. It's like if Paul Jenkins had then like taken over, if he had been the third person in the Dan Jolly, Brandon Jerwa like fight to the death, I would have been very excited had he been in that running. But I think to Jay's point that this like loses this gets taken down a notch for something not being clear. But that said, compared to so many issues of Frontline, where this is mostly a successful and satisfying single issue story, it's not too broad, it's not silly, it's not like there's both like G.I. Joe action and stakes, but also, these 2 or 3 flashbacks that are funny, but also fill in the story. Like this isn't like Beachhead goes home. Like we keep seeing this in Frontline where it's like, okay, a Joe is not a Joe and they've got their other job or their family. And, when that happened a couple years ago, there was a quick scene in the main G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero IDW book where we get a page about Spirit Iron Knife's parents. And I thought, awesome, right? And before that, we'd learned that Duke was married, and I thought, awesome. And it might not be fair because a certain writer, long affiliated with G.I. Joe, for me, has much more leeway to invent new stuff for these characters to do when they're not Joes. And these issues where in Frontline where Joes aren't really being Joes, and I'm like, all right, just go back to being a Joe. I'm really grateful that this issue, like, what a relief. It's like, no, he's on a mission, even if it's not against Cobra.
Can I touch on a point that you sort of said earlier, Tim? I think you described them as being, competent, something along those lines, and in the G.I. Joe stories that I like to see, I think the G.I. Joes are meant to be the best of the best, and when they do something silly, it irritates me because it sort of takes me out of it. Thinking, if they're the best of the best, they shouldn't be doing or saying silly things. So for example, earlier on in the Devil's Due run, when the G.I. Joes are attacking and the green shirts are getting killed, left, right, and centre, sort of in amongst the main Joes and stuff, that irritates me because the Joes should be doing better than that essentially, and not letting their green shirt colleagues be getting into those situations. Anyway, but that aside, the thing that I'm looping back to is early on in the issue, Beachhead says something along the lines of, the first rule of small arms combat marine, know your enemy. They're so poorly trained they couldn't shoot a barn from the inside. You want to be a Joe, you got to think like a Joe. Eyes up, back straight. And then, poof, yeah, one of them gets shot in the leg. So they're definitely better trained than Beachhead thinks. They can shoot a soldier's leg from some distance away, never mind the side of a barn. So that slightly frustrated me that Beachhead was so quickly proved wrong about the capabilities of their enemy.
I'm going to point out 2 things with those 2 panels where think like a Joe, eyes up, back straight, and then where the guy gets shot. The panel where Beachhead and the 2 green shirts are running at us is a perfect example for me of Tim Seeley's anatomical posing not having enough tension. These 3 Joes look like they're jogging casually, and there should be much more stress. More of their muscles should be taut, and they should be running at us faster. And there are artists who sort of specialize in this. There are artists who don't specialize in it, but can, sort of pull it off. And there are artists who never really pull it off. Then the second panel, the actual panel where a bullet goes through Joe's green shirt's leg and he yells, yeah. The angle of the shot looks like the gun is like 2 feet behind him on the ground, pointing up at him. And it's a small thing, but I think we've established that the bad guy mob, which is chasing them, they're like 30 or 100 or 200 feet behind them. And unless there's some weird ricochet off the ground, which I guess is possible, that bullet should be going through the Joe sort of straight or at an angle closer to horizontal.
You're right. And it looks like that's all in the colouring, that white line of the bullet going in and the exit wound all look to be colours rather than drawn lines.
But the exit wound, but that line is created from the angle of the height of the exit wound higher than the height of the entry wound. Yeah.
I'm saying you're absolutely right. It's the wrong angle, but I think the only thing that Tim Seeley drew was the entry wound, the line of the bullet, and the exit wound. I think are just colours only.
Jay,
look at all the dialogue on this page. This would take place in a few seconds, and Beachhead in the first paragraph is 2 great big word balloons. Second paragraph, 2 great big word balloons. Third paragraph, one of the guys is like, oh, because some very annoyed people are shooting at me, Sergeant Major. Mark said something about Joes needing to act like Joes. And that's a problem that I've had with a lot of the green shirts, Damon, Firewall, these people. None of these recruits ever act like people that would be considered for the best of the best. I mentioned with the classified Duke how his face sculpt looked like he just got out of college. G.I. Joe members should be like in their 30s, mid 30s, because they've all got a lot of experience, and they're not going to act like scared children on a training exercise. And just that the third panel, that guy saying all that stuff to Beachhead, and then like you said, Tim, they're just jogging along. You're getting shot at. Seeley's better in a lot of respects than he was, but there's a lot of things that are messed up. And I made a joke about this in the plot breakdown. They run to this building that's clearly 6 stories tall. They get inside and they go on the elevator to like the 18th floor or something. And it's like, what? He says, why are we getting out on the 18th floor? Anyone? And I look back and I go, there's 6 stories in that building.
Excellent.
Yeah, but I was kind of surprised with a lot of the art because, there isn't a lot that's better. We've talked about Seeley using a lot of mid-level shots and not turning the camera, and he does that a lot more in here. For me, more of the problem with the art just, again, goes back to like the character designs. I hate that all of the Joe recruits look like tripwire.
Yeah.
They should be wearing fatigues, flak jackets, that kind of thing. Not Tripwire's outfit. Beachhead's outfit is terrible. Their outfits are terrible.
I do think in terms of green shirts, there's a missed opportunity in the whole Devil's Due run, at least in this issue where they're on a mission. They're not like taking laps at Joe HQ. They should all have like 2 or 3 things in their costumes that make them different from the other green shirts. Because that's going to be more fun for the artist to draw, a little fun for all of us, and easier for us to track, right? So like all that we have is that there's 3 guys, there's 3 white guys, 1 black guy, 1 woman, and there's some variety. Number 4, the sort of main character, his goggles are up so we can see his eyes, right? And then the others are sort of more anonymous. Think of the beginning of Star Wars Episode 7, when we first see Finn, the Stormtrooper, before he takes his helmet off, right? It's like, how am I going to know to follow this one Stormtrooper who looks like every other Stormtrooper? Like, oh, there's a bloody handprint on his helmet. It's like, okay, I know which one we're going to follow. To go back to the urgency here, like sort of talking a lot or being a little jokey, and the poses. Something else that I really picked up on when they get into the elevator, and then after the flashback to the drill sergeant, and when they come out of the elevator, and this line, a few pages later, where Beachhead does say, "Why are we getting out on the 18th floor? Anyone?" There is some level of alert to their poses, but in these pages, in the elevator and just after they get off, I feel like they need to be holding their weapons much more sort of at the ready. And on the elevator, the green shirt that's all the way on the left, I guess he's a lefty because he's not holding a weapon in his right hand, right? We can't see his left hand. I need more fraught action, concern, like wound up, coiled tightly tension. And to go back to this previous
standing around.
Yeah, to go back to this previous point of is it a training mission or not? Those 2 word balloons, when that Jay just pointed out, because some very annoyed people are shooting at me, Sergeant Major. They're the ones with the big guns over behind me, Sergeant Major. That's when I really thought, oh, is this a training mission? And then, to Jay's point, Seeley's layouts have improved, but this big half page of them on the elevator as a straight on sort of mid-level shot is like a small return to the less dramatic, like sort of lacking any point of view, not emphasizing anything in particular Tim Seeley storytelling.
Yeah, that's the Tim Seeley we know.
But I don't mind that panel. I think, he's there looking bad and separated from the rest of the team.
Yeah.
You know, they're looking.
They're
at
kind
him
of
with
looking at him
suspicious.
like,
They're
you son of a bitch.
yeah, USOB. What have you done, leaving that guy
Yeah.
behind? Yeah, I don't know. I'm fine with that panel.
There's many more panels, like I said, where he turns the camera, you know, and gives us a more interesting angle. And I wondered, like, publication times, you know, he did the last 2 parts, I think, of The Last Stand, and they were kind of underwhelming. You had a lot of, like, you know, just mid-level straight shots. We pointed out in particular 2 instances where people kicked things in that arc that just were flat. And there was a page in here where Beachhead kicks the door down. It was the one Tim just pointed out where they get off the elevator. That middle panel, page 9, is much better than his other attempts with Duke kicking a door down and Cobra Commander kicking Serpentor off the tower. It's better. It's not great, but it's more dynamic. And I just wondered, I was like, well, how is it that he's seems to be better, at least with the layouts and poses and stuff here, than in The Last Stand? They couldn't have been any more than a few months apart either direction.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, because the ad on the inside back cover of this issue is for issue 25.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Seeley spent a normal amount of time on this issue, and then someone said, oh, we need you to help draw some of 24 and 25.
Okay,
yeah,
probably.
And I think those were a rush.
Probably
But
right.
I think this issue then probably gives us a little better indication of what he's capable of. And, you know, we found his art underwhelming before. And this, I agree, it's probably not the best fit, but he's improving.
Cool.
I spy with my little eye.
Have we got any I Spies? I've used mine up already.
I have an I Spy. On page 7, it's not Sergeant Slaughter. But
you're right.
We're kind of supposed to think it's Sergeant Slaughter, because in the first panel we see him from behind. He's much wider and he's taller than these green shirts. He looks from behind like Sergeant Slaughter, and then from the front, I kind of feel like Tim Seeley is thinking, I'm going to draw Sergeant Slaughter, but I'll change 2 things so that it clears legal.
Mm-hmm.
So not the glasses and a different mustache. And then I guess he's got sort of graying sideburns. But this could both be sort of any sort of brand new drill sergeant that we haven't seen in the world of G.I. Joe, and not a reference to Sergeant Slaughter. But I kind of feel like, wink, wink, it's like, well, this is as much Sergeant Slaughter as we can make it.
Quote of the week, quote of the week, quote of the week, quote of the week,
Quote of the week, quote of the week.
quote of the week.
Quote of the week is my favorite line from this issue is from page 1, 10, 11, 12, the final panel. This, on the other hand, is a potato, which works better in context, where Beachhead, I'll do the whole line.
Yeah.
I bet you don't think I got much more than the army in my head, huh? I bet you think old Beachhead ain't too clever. Well, anyone else would have you clean this place up with a toothbrush or something. This, on the other hand, is a potato. And then 4 continues it in narration. Potato! He made me clean the entire barracks with a freaking potato! And believe me, if anyone ever tells you to clean your house with a potato, it can't be done. And that feels very much in keeping with the kind of sort of impossible odds and stakes and like chores that is it issue 82 of A Real American Hero, the Ron Wagner cover, a Viper behind Repeater, and it's like a training mission for 3 new Joe recruits, and some of them are washing out. That's the issue where Duke's going to send like the one who doesn't make the team to is it Thule Greenland, Thule. But I
Sounds familiar.
The potato thing is really funny to me, because I don't know if Paul Jenkins had ever heard an actual army story, or if he's like, I need to come up with something that just seems impossible, but you might experience in the military.
Yeah, I was torn between 2 quotes for my favorite of this issue. That one and this one in a not too dissimilar vein. It's Beachhead again playing the tough drill sergeant. He's I hate it when you maggots ain't got the sense to pay attention your first day. You, what do you say when I tell you the jump? I say, how high, Sergeant Major? You don't say a darn thing, idiot. You just jump. Now, get down and give me 50.
My favorite line was, again, another Beachhead one, busting somebody's chops. And it was not really a great line, but I did laugh because of the situation. They're in the middle of the firefight, and page 18, and the guy's like, my gun's jammed. And Beachhead goes, you're an idiot. Drop and give me 50. It's like, wow, man, we're in the middle of a firefight. He's just like, you're an idiot. Drop and give me 50. It's like, damn, a hard teacher there.
Yeah, there was something, I can't remember where it's from, but it was a quote, something along the lines of, what do you see in the dictionary if you look up the word idiot? I suppose I see a picture of myself, sir. No, you see the definition of the word idiot, which is what you are. So, yeah.
I have a very, very small error detected.
Error detected. Error detected. No prize incoming.
I have a very small error detected on page 10, panel 1. It's the silhouette panel where you see the green shirts ziplining from one building to the other with a night sky behind them. Like I said before, this is the narration. The Joe's idea of a training mission is to send you into some hot zone. Joe is plural, and possessive plural has the apostrophe coming after the S.
Ooh, there's a nitpick. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's give this bad boy some Joe scoring. I'll go first for a change, I think. So this one, I think generally I like the fact that we've got a spotlight on Beachhead. I think a lot of the story is good. The dialogue in a lot of places is good as well, from us picking out some of our favorite quotes. The art, I think, is generally pretty strong. Good storytelling, looks nice. The coloring is pretty good for Devil's Due particularly. But I think it's let down by just two key points. Just the motivation for the mission there on could be a little bit clearer or stronger. And that aspect of leaving the man behind just really stuck for me. I think if they just had it something along the lines of it just being much more obvious that he was left behind and there was no way of them rescuing him at that particular moment in time, versus it just seemingly be that they were just leaving him behind just to be hard cases, whatever. I think that would have helped the story. That look, we can't rescue him now. He's beyond help, but we will rescue him down the line. That would have worked better for me. So probably for me, this is like a 6.5. With those points being remedied, it would have been higher.
I guess Beachhead is ambidextrous because he is holding his weapon in his left hand in many panels, but in a few of them, he's holding his weapon in his right hand.
It's because he's a badass.
Yeah, I had one more nitpick, which I'll file under like sort of good art, bad art, which is sort of as how I'm torn on Tim Seeley here, and that is page 16, panel 6. Beachhead smiles, and there's this weird thing that a bunch of Marvel artists have been doing for the last 15 years, which I don't think you can actually pull off, which is when you are wearing this kind of mask, if you smile, somehow the people who are looking at you can tell that you're smiling because the like fabric of your Deadpool mask or your Beachhead mask is like wrapped so tightly that like the very small movement of your cheek muscles creating a smile like molds against. Anyway, I give this a 5. The story doesn't entirely work out, but it's a very good attempt. The art there's a lot of appeal to it, and this is like the minimum. This is the minimum of what all of the Devil's Due, art should have been. Like if Seeley at this level had drawn issue 1 of the main monthly book, I would have still had a problem with it, but much less. And so I give this a 5.
This story for me leaves a lot to be desired. Between the artist being miscast and questions with the story, Beachhead's motivation, what's the plan, how much is real, how much is not real. Those are pretty fundamental things for me. And I mean, I read this twice and I still was like confused about, how real this situation was or how not it was. I've mentioned what Tim called Jay's metric a couple episodes back, which really is Chief's metric, that anything 5 or above means I don't regret reading it and I might want to read it again. I've read this one once. I'll never go back to it again. I have no interest in reading it. It was just a miss for me on many levels. So I'm giving it a 4.
Oof.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about issue 18.
Warning team, as the sands of time descend, temporal disruption has set in, and it is here that we must leave our brave adventurers, Mark, Jay, and Tim. Remain patient as we will pick up where we leave them in part 2 of our Frontline episode, as we dig into the detail of the next issue, 18. Join us, if you dare.